They say good women give without asking. If that's true, I must have been the best. I gave him my time, my body, my weekends, my patience, my whole damn life, just to be told I was too sensitive when I asked for the bare minimum. I cooked when I was sick. I worked late, then came home to clean his mess. And when I cried, he rolled his eyes and said, "Here we go again, playing the victim." Every time he failed, I took the blame. Every time he yelled, I lowered my voice. I shrank so he could shine. But the day he looked at me, exhausted, trembling, and said, "You're lucky I even put up with you," something in me finally cracked. No, not lucky, not weak, just done. Done loving someone who weaponized my kindness. Done bleeding. For someone who never cared if I healed. Hi, I'm Isabel, and this is the story of the last time I ever apologized for being too much. To someone who was never enough. I always believed trust was the foundation of love. For 6 years, I built my life around that belief. Around him. Every dinner I made, every weekend I cleared for his plans, every "I'm working late," I believed, was a small brick in a castle I didn't realize he was torching behind my back. So when Liam kissed me on the forehead that Friday night, smiled that same practiced smile and said, "Out for drinks with the guys, don't wait up," I had no reason to doubt him. Not until I saw the notification on his iPad light up as he left. It was a shared Apple account, something we set up when we were still too in love to think about privacy. That night, I forgot about the lasagna in the oven and stared at the screen. It said, "Directions to the Coral Boutique Hotel." Not a bar, not a pub, a hotel. I froze. My heart didn't just drop, it shattered. My fingers moved before I could stop them. I tapped on Find My Phone. His dot moved across town in real time, not toward the bar he mentioned, but toward a part of the city we had once joked was too fancy for us. I called. He didn't pick up. I called again, straight to voicemail. Something inside me snapped. I wasn't the clingy type. I'd never tracked him before. But now I had a digital trail and a sinking feeling I couldn't ignore. And that gut instinct, the one I had silenced for too long, was screaming at me to look closer. I grabbed my keys. I didn't even change. Out of my pajama pants. I just got in the car and drove. The GPS pinned him right behind the white marble columns of the Coral Boutique Hotel. 5 stars, valet only, the kind of place we never dared step into. And he was there, on a Friday night, when he said he'd be at a dive bar with friends. I parked 2 blocks away. I didn't care about elegance or discretion. I was a woman possessed by clarity, by anger, by heartbreak that had crystallized into something far stronger. I stood across the lobby, hiding behind a potted palm, when I saw him walk out of the elevator with her. Tall, blonde, red dress. A laugh that pierced through the glass like a dagger. He kissed her, on the cheek, on the lips. He kissed her like he hadn't kissed me in months. And just like that, I knew. This wasn't new. This wasn't a fling. This was her. The one who had stolen my dinners, my date nights, my trust, my husband. I stumbled back like I'd been slapped. I nearly lost my footing. They walked to the bar across the street, arm in arm, like it was just another Friday night. Meanwhile, I was across the street, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white, barely able to see through. The fog of disbelief and betrayal. But I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I opened his location again, started screen recording, and saved every second. Because if this man wanted to burn down my life, I was going to rise from the ashes, and I wasn't going to do it quietly. That night, I didn't go home. I went to my sister's house. I sat on her couch, staring at the footage, replaying it over and over again. She watched with me. Then she looked at me and said 7 words that changed everything. "You know what you have to do." And I did. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to plead, but I was going to make him regret ever thinking I was weak. This wasn't going to be his story anymore. It was going to be mine. The next morning, I stared at the man I once loved across the kitchen island. He stood there in the same hoodie from the night before, sipping the coffee I made, smiling like he hadn't kissed another woman while I tracked him in real time. "Did you have fun last night?" I asked, folding my arms. He didn't flinch. "Yeah, just the usual. John had too many shots. Mikey bailed early. You know how it goes." He was calm. Too calm. And I realized then, he had lied so many times it didn't even register as lying anymore. It was reflex. I nodded. The Corral Hotel looked fun. That's when it happened. A twitch, barely a second long. His hand froze on the mug, and he tried to cover it with a chuckle. "What?" "You heard me." I stared directly into his eyes. "You kissed her outside the elevator. I was there." The color drained from his face, but still, he tried. "Babe, you're not serious right now. You must have seen someone else. You..." I pulled out my phone and pressed play. There it was, in high definition, his lips on her neck, his hand on her waist. Her laugh, his smile, both burned into my screen and my mind. He didn't even try to argue after that. He just walked away, out the front door, no apology, no fight. Just silence. And in that silence, I crumbled. I cried so hard my ribs hurt. The kind of crying that comes from your soul when everything you believed turns to dust. 6 years, 6 birthdays, 6 anniversaries, all fake, all ruined. But that heartbreak, raw and suffocating, turned into something else by nightfall. Began digging. And the more I dug, the more I realized Liam hadn't just cheated. He had built a double life. There were Venmo payments to names I didn't recognize, some marked, thanks, some left blank. There were Uber receipts at odd hours, dozens of cash withdrawals, photos he forgot to delete from his iCloud, the same iCloud I still had access to. He had taken vacations without me, spa days, concerts. All while telling me we needed to cut back, that we couldn't afford a vacation, that we had to save for a down payment, that he was working late. The worst part? He used my money, my savings, my paycheck, my sacrifices. I found a credit card under my name I'd never applied for. Maxed out. Used to buy jewelry, dinners, hotel stays. All for her. He didn't just lie. He robbed me, emotionally, financially, even spiritually. It felt like he had drained the life out of me. He thought I was stupid. He thought I'd cry, maybe scream, maybe post a quote on Instagram about moving on, and then he'd get away with it. But he didn't know who he was dealing with anymore. He hadn't met this version of me. The one who had nothing left to lose. I called my bank. I froze the accounts. I called a lawyer. I filed for fraud. Then I called every mutual friend we had and told them the truth. Some didn't believe me. Some did. One even admitted they'd seen him with her before, but didn't want to get involved. I realized then how small my support system was, but that was okay, because I didn't need sympathy. I needed evidence. And I was getting it, one digital footprint at a time. He was still going out, still pretending to live this smooth double life. So I kept tracking him, logging every timestamp, every location, every lie. I wasn't going to confront him again, in private. I was going to do it where it would sting the most. In front of the people who thought he was untouchable. The same people he'd lied to. The friends, the co-workers, his family. Because Liam didn't just break my heart, he buried it. And I was about to dig it back up and drop it on his perfectly curated world like a bomb. This wasn't revenge. This was justice. And I was just getting started. The first time I met Liam, I thought I had won the lottery. He was charming in the way that made waiters laugh and neighbors wave when he passed. Everyone liked Liam. Everyone trusted Liam. So when he proposed in front of my family, I believed I was safe. When we moved in together, I handed over passwords, bills, even access to my savings account, thinking that's what love was supposed to look like. But love isn't blind. Love sees everything and still chooses to stay. What I gave Liam was blind trust, and he used it as a weapon. Now, as I sat at my sister's dining table surrounded by documents, screenshots, phone logs, credit card statements, and lawyer contact sheets, I realized this wasn't just about heartbreak. It was about survival. He didn't just cheat on me, he bled me dry. When I added up the amounts, he had siphoned over $27,000 from our accounts for his affairs. He opened credit cards in my name, took out cash advances, and used my identity like it was disposable. My credit score tanked. My emergency fund? Gone. And I was left behind to clean it all up. I had worked 3 jobs in college, paid off every dime of my student debt, said no to vacations, restaurants, new clothes, just so we could save for a future I thought we were building together. Liam didn't just shatter our relationship, he shattered my foundation. I remember standing in line at the bank explaining to the manager that I didn't recognize these charges, only to see that familiar look behind the glass, pity mixed with disbelief. "How could you not know?" her eyes asked, because that's what everyone wanted to say. How could you not? No, but liars like Liam, they don't get caught because they're smart. They get caught because they get comfortable. He was cocky. He thought he was 10 steps ahead. But while he was out whining and dining his mistress, I was collecting every trace of his deceit and building a case stronger than he could imagine. And what made it worse? I wasn't the only one he'd manipulated. His family adored me. His mom called me her daughter. His sister asked me to be her maid of honor. They loved the life we projected, the perfect couple image he polished. So carefully. If they knew what he really was, what he had really done, they'd be horrified. But he had them fooled. He had everyone fooled. Except me. Not anymore. This mattered because Liam didn't just betray me emotionally or financially. He destroyed my future. The house we were supposed to buy? Gone. The business I wanted to start? On hold indefinitely. The life I envisioned? Crushed under the weight of his selfishness. But I wasn't going to be a casualty in his story. I was going to be the plot twist. He thought he'd end me quietly. Leave. Me emotionally wrecked and financially broken, too humiliated to fight back. But I had one thing left, truth. And truth is louder than lies. I printed everything out. I organized it into folders. I hired a private investigator to trace any extra accounts, any aliases, anything else he might be hiding. Because if I was going to confront him, it wasn't going to be with half-baked accusations and emotional. Please. It was going to be with evidence. Unshakable. Undeniable. Undeniably his. This wasn't a scorned woman's tantrum. This was a strategic dismantling of the man who thought he could ruin me and walk away. And I knew the perfect moment to strike was coming up, his birthday dinner. He was planning it himself, inviting colleagues, family, even me, as if nothing had happened. I RSVP'd with a smile, and began planning the kind of gift that doesn't come in a box, the kind that leaves scars, not physical ones, the kind that are felt in boardrooms, in social circles, in silence. Liam didn't just ruin our relationship. He tried to ruin me. But he was about to learn the difference between a woman who gets hurt and a woman who gets even. The idea came to me in fragments, bits of strategy fueled by sleepless nights, whispered conversations with my sister, and the fury that kept me awake like a shot of adrenaline in my veins. I didn't want to just leave him. I wanted him to watch everything fall apart and know I was the one who brought it all down. Because this wasn't just about getting justice. It was about making sure he never did this to anyone else again. Liam had his birthday. Dinner planned at a trendy rooftop restaurant, complete with a guest list full of co-workers, investors, close friends, and family. People who thought he was a respectable, charming, upstanding man. People who had no idea who he really was behind closed doors. It would be the perfect stage. Now all I had to do was prepare the show. Step 1. Gather undeniable proof. I already had the screen recordings, the hotel footage, and screenshots of messages he forgot to delete. But I needed more than just a digital trail. I needed paperwork. The kind that shuts people up and makes even the most loyal friends take a step back. So I contacted the private investigator. Within 5 days, she uncovered 3 more hotel bookings, 2 additional women, and an offshore account he had opened with my name attached to it. He used my signature, copied from a rent agreement, and wired nearly $8,000 into that account. Fraud, plain and simple. She compiled everything into a sleek folder, chronological, notarized, time-stamped. Step 2. Control the narrative. Liam was still texting me like nothing was wrong, still calling me babe, still asking if I'd help him pick out a new suit for his birthday dinner. It made my skin crawl, but I played along, because if I exposed him too early, he'd run. And I didn't want him running. I wanted him cornered. So I smiled. I played the role of the forgiving, slightly naive girlfriend who was working things out. Meanwhile, I had emailed every person on that guest list anonymously, inviting them to a surprise birthday presentation. No details, just an intriguing promise. You won't want to miss this. Step 3. Set the stage. I booked a table adjacent to his party's reservation. Same rooftop restaurant, same time, different section. I brought along a friend who worked in AV tech. He wired up a small mic and speaker setup, hidden under the tablecloth, with a single laptop input. At exactly 8:45 p.m., the rooftop would dim for a birthday toast. But instead of a toast, what they'd hear would be the full story of Liam Miller, complete with photos, receipts, voice notes, and testimony. I'd narrate the whole thing myself. From a distance, no shouting, no chaos. Just cold, calculated exposure. Step 4. The fallout plan. I already had my name removed from every joint account. The fraud reports had been filed. I'd frozen the offshore account, canceled the credit cards, and sent my lawyer the full report to begin building a criminal and civil case. I'd made sure nothing tied me to him anymore, except this final confrontation. I even signed a new lease for a studio apartment across town. Small, quiet, mine. He would wake up the morning after his birthday with nothing. No partner, no reputation, no access to the money he thought he'd hidden. This wasn't just revenge, it was the restoration of my life, one shattered piece at a time. Some might say it was too much, too cruel, too dramatic. But those people had never watched the man they loved smile at them while secretly erasing their future behind their back. Those people had never cried in parking lots, wondering how they'd pay rent because their partner drained their savings to impress a side piece in stilettos. No, this wasn't cruel. This was necessary. And Liam? He was going to feel everything I felt. He just didn't know it yet. The days leading up to Liam's birthday felt like walking through a minefield, but I was calm, methodical. I was done crying, done questioning myself. I had crossed the line, from heartbroken to focused, and once I stepped into that headspace, I became unstoppable. He was still texting me about outfit choices and playlist ideas, still sending "can't wait to see you, babe" messages, like we were some sweet, unbreakable couple. I responded with emojis. Short, sweet lies to mask the storm that was building just behind the smiley face and thumbs up. The night before his birthday, I did one final sweep, logged into his cloud backup to double-check everything was intact, forwarded all the documents from the private investigator to my own hard drive, and then made a USB drive labeled simply, Liam's birthday surprise. Inside it, every secret. A folder named Hotel Bookings with receipts and surveillance screenshots. One called Messages with saved WhatsApp conversations between him and two women, both talking about what he said he'd do after the divorce. Another folder, Financials, fraudulent card use, my forged signature, his offshore transfer history. I added voice memos too. One of them was a recording from his mistress. I had called her 2 days prior, calmly, without anger. I just wanted answers. To my surprise, she gave them freely. Turns out, she didn't know he was still with me. She thought they were exclusive. She thought he was leaving me. She was furious. And when I asked if she'd be willing to say a few words on record, she said, absolutely. That bastard's ruined enough lives. Her voice now lived in that folder too. On the day of the dinner, I dressed in the same outfit I wore the day Liam proposed to me. A little symbolic, maybe. But in a way, it felt like closure. The woman I was then, naive, trusting, glowing with hope, deserved to witness what I had become now. I arrived early and took my seat at the adjacent table, just far enough away to go unnoticed, but close enough to watch his table with full view. He arrived fashionably late, smiling, waving, shaking hands. His mom hugged him. His co-workers clapped. His boss gave him a pat on the back. If I hadn't known the truth, I might have believed the act too. But now I saw him clearly. A polished fraud in a pressed blazer. At 8:30 p.m., I texted the AV tech, "Ready?" He responded with a thumbs-up emoji. I took a deep breath, looked across the rooftop where Liam held his wine glass up in a smug toast to another year of greatness, and gave the signal. 4:45 p.m. Lights dimmed slightly, just as planned. Soft. Music faded. Then, silence. Then, my voice, coming from hidden speakers across the rooftop. "Good evening, everyone. My name is Emma. Some of you know me as Liam's girlfriend. Some of you have known us as a couple for 6 years. What you don't know is what he's done behind closed doors." Heads turned. Utensils froze midair. Liam's face went pale. His eyes darted around, looking for me. But I was just one among many, sipping water, watching like everyone else. I let the audio roll. For the past year, Liam has been leading a double life. What I'm about to share is not hearsay. It's documented, verified, real. Then came the hotel receipts, the credit card transactions, the screenshots of him sending "I love you" to a woman while texting me, "On my way home." A few gasps. One of his co-workers put down his fork. Then came the voice memo. He said we were exclusive. He told me he was done with her. If I'd known he was lying, I never would have touched him. Liam stood now, panicked. "Turn it off," he barked to the staff. "It's fake. She's crazy." But the voiceover continued. Photos appeared on a screen the AV tech had discreetly set up behind the birthday banner. Photos of Liam kissing the mistress. Photos of us, the same day, where he smiled at me like nothing was wrong. And then, the final slide. "This isn't revenge. This is reality. I've already contacted my lawyer, the bank, the authorities. Your mother deserves to know the truth. Your boss too. Happy birthday, Liam." Silence. Utter, suffocating silence. I stood, calmly walked over, set the USB drive in front of his plate, leaned down and whispered, "You don't get to rewrite the story anymore." And I left. Didn't look back, didn't run, didn't cry. Just walked out into the night, my heart finally lighter than it had been in months. The moment I walked out of that restaurant, it was like I'd stepped through a door and slammed. It shut behind me, permanently. I didn't need to look back to know what was happening inside. Liam's mask had finally shattered in front of the very people he tried so hard to impress. There's no charming your way out of receipts, screenshots, and your mistress's own voice telling the world who you really are. By the time I got into my car, my phone was already buzzing. First it was Liam, 10 calls in a row. Then a string of texts. "We need to talk. You're blowing this way out of proportion. I can fix this if you just come back. And finally, you'll regret this." That one made me laugh. Because the only thing I regretted was not seeing through him sooner. He didn't call again after that, but others did. His sister called to apologize. She said she had no idea, that she felt sick for defending him all these years. His mother left a voicemail, her voice shaking, asking if I was okay and if there was anything she could do to make it right. Even his boss reached out via email after the video made its rounds on social media, thanking me, yes, thanking me, for bringing this to light before the company's name was dragged into scandal. Apparently, Liam had been using corporate expense accounts for some of those hotel bookings. By the end of the week, he was suspended pending investigation. By the end of the month, he was fired. His mistress, gone, blocked him, deleted all. Their photos, and reportedly moved to another city. And me? I moved into my small, peaceful studio. I painted the walls myself, bought a second-hand couch, made coffee every morning, and drank it in silence, savoring the freedom. There was no more gaslighting, no more pacing at 2 a.m. wondering if I was crazy, No more staring at a phone, waiting for answers that would never come. Just me, healing, rebuilding, living. A month after the confrontation, I received a letter from my lawyer confirming that the fraud case against Liam was proceeding. The banks had refunded part of the money, and we were pursuing the rest in court. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about accountability. He wanted to burn down my life in secret. So I lit a match in public and watched his crumble instead. People. Talk about karma like it's some cosmic force floating in the sky, waiting to strike. But sometimes karma wears red lipstick and a steady voice. Sometimes it looks like a woman who's been betrayed one too many times and finally decides she's done suffering in silence. Sometimes it shows up at your birthday, dinner with receipts and an audience. I know now that love doesn't require blind trust. It requires mutual respect. I also know that walking away doesn't mean you've lost. Sometimes it means you've just stopped fighting for someone who was never worth the war. And confronting Liam the way I did, that wasn't a breakdown. That was my breakthrough. It was the moment I stopped being the victim of someone else's choices and became the author of my own story. A story with heartbreak, yes, but also with justice and a very public ending. Liam thought he could control the narrative. He thought he could lie, steal, cheat, and walk away clean. Instead, he walked away jobless, reputation in ruins, and utterly alone. And me? I walked away free. Because the truth, when told out loud, is the most powerful weapon there is, especially when it's spoken by the very woman they underestimated.